Also tracking a reaction from the IDF who described the events in the run-up to Sinwar's elimination.
סינואר שנפצע ביד שלו מהירי, הוא נראה כאן רעול פנים. ברגעיו האחרונים משליך קרש עץ לעבר הרחפן. אנחנו זיהינו אותו כמחבל בתוך מבנה. ירינו למבנה ונכנסנו לסריקה. מצאנו אותו עם אפוד ואקדח 40,000 שקל. הוא היה במנוסה, ברח, וכוחותינו חיסלו אותו.
Let's go back to my colleague Samiksha joining us live from a newsroom. Samiksha, if you could take our viewers, to what Israel has said, because Israel has been targeting the Hamas chief for quite a while now. Let's not forget that terrible, terrible day on October 7th, where so many lost their lives in that brutal attack. Sinwar was a mastermind, and that is the reason why Israel has been trying to target him, find him, and eliminate him. Go ahead, Samiksha.
That's right, Shivangi. Israeli forces have made their point absolutely clear that this is only the beginning of the end and that they would continue with their offensive targeting, not just
Hamas. We have seen one leader erupts or emerges after another is killed. So to my mind, I think this is a good time, I think, when Israel can push for negotiations and a return of hostages, because till now I think Prime Minister Netanyahu has really not taken initiative as far as return of hostages is concerned. That I think he can take it now that he can claim that his avowed objective of eliminating the person who was responsible for this attacks has been eliminated, though elimination of Hamas, as he claims, is his avowed objective, may be difficult to attain.
Right. Well, Mr. Alok Bansal, we're talking about the world reactions coming in. Let's take the next breaking update, where we're learning that world leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, react to the elimination of October 7th attack mastermind. Notably, German Chancellor Scholz has reaffirmed Berlin's position, saying that Germany will supply military aid to Israel in the ongoing operations. Very big update coming in right now. And the NATO chief, Mr. Bansal, had also said a short while back that I personally will not miss him. So many of these world leaders are standing behind Israel. They're standing behind Israel. My question to you is, how will this really change the dynamics of the tensions that we are seeing in West Asia?
See, there is no doubt that the Western leaders would support and should support the elimination of a person who is considered to be responsible for 7th October attack. But as I said, the only country which at this point of time is impacted and is keen that ceasefire should come is the United States of America, which has an election early next month and would want that ceasefire should come, because within the Democrat Party support base, there are supporters for both. We have supporters of Palestinians, especially the youth in US universities is in a big way demonstrating in support of Palestinians. At the same time, there are a large number of Jews who also support Democrat Party. And that's where the problem is, that the Democrats would not want this war to flare up further, so that they may be forced to take a side, which would actually eliminate one or the other support base of theirs. Because as of now, it seems that they are likely to win. On the other hand, Republicans like Donald Trump would definitely want, and as a result, you see a very laudatory message coming from Donald Trump, because if this war aggravates, the Republicans could stage a comeback, because then either the Palestinian supporters or the Israel supporters would not vote for Kamala Harris, depending on which side the US takes or what stance the US takes. And that's why US is the one which is most concerned, and that's why Anthony Blinken is flying to Israel. As far as the Middle East is concerned, most Arab countries will make statements, not do anything. The Arab street does support Palestinians, and some of these countries may see some demonstrations in support of that. But eventually, the only noise that will come from Iran and Iraq, because of late, Israel has even talked of eliminating Grand Ayatollah Sistani being on the hit list or something like that. And that's actually created a huge furor in Iraq. So these are the only countries which will make statements. At the moment, I think Syria also seems to be lying low. It doesn't want to get embroiled into this particular conflict. So I really don't visualize much of a problem as far as Middle East is concerned. Iran and its, in fact, the proxies of Iran, as you would like to call, the Houthis, Hezbollah, may try to do something, but Hezbollah, as I told you earlier, has been phenomenally weakened by what Israel has done. And Houthis really don't have the capacity to target Israel so extensively from such a far off distance.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Alok Bansal, geopolitical analyst and strategist here, for getting us a perspective on what is happening in West Asia. We also have the reaction of the German Chancellor on what is happening post the killing of Yahya Sinwar. Let's play that out and then we'll go back to the top stories we are tracking on this big development.
Und bei vielen anderen Gelegenheiten, das war ein furchtbarer, brutaler, menschenverachtender Angriff der Hamas auf israelische Bürgerinnen und Bürger, die getötet, vergewaltigt und auf schlimmste Weise menschlich erniedrigt worden sind, alles auch fotografiert. Und der Verantwortliche dafür war derjenige, über den jetzt diese Meldungen uns alle erreicht haben. Er war auch gewissermaßen militärisch verantwortlich für die Aktivitäten der Hamas. Und deshalb ist das etwas, was man mit in den Blick nehmen muss. Hier hat jemand, der schlimmste Verbrechen begangen hat, jetzt offenbar das Leben verloren. Und ich wiederhole, Israel hat das Recht, sich zu verteidigen gegen die Angriffe der Hamas und gegen die Hamas. Gut übrigens, dass wir das auch hier beim Europäischen Gipfel noch mal festgehalten haben als gemeinsame Position.
It's a major development in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has announced that the neutralization of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, a key figure behind last year's attack on Israel. Israeli troops unknowingly encountered him during a battle, only later identifying his body. Israeli leaders hailed Sinwar's death as a significant victory, marking it as a moment of justice for the attack that killed 1,200 Israelis and led to the kidnapping of 250 others. They also framed it as a pivotal point in their campaign to dismantle Hamas, urging its fighters to surrender and release the remaining hostages in Gaza. Let's have a look at what Netanyahu had said.
Yahya Sinwar is dead. He was killed in Rafah by the brave soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces. While this is not the end of the war in Gaza, it's the beginning of the end. To the people of Gaza, I have a simple message. This war can end tomorrow. It can end if Hamas lays down its arms and returns our hostages.
Also tracking a reaction from the IDF who described the events in the run-up to Sinwar's elimination.
סינואר שנפצע ביד שלו מהירי, הוא נראה כאן רעול פנים. ברגעיו האחרונים משליך קרש עץ לעבר הרחפן. אנחנו זיהינו אותו כמחבל בתוך מבנה. ירינו למבנה ונכנסנו לסריקה. מצאנו אותו עם אפוד ואקדח 40,000 שקל. הוא היה במנוסה, ברח, וכוחותינו חיסלו אותו.
Let's go back to my colleague Samiksha joining us live from a newsroom. Samiksha, if you could take our viewers, to what Israel has said, because Israel has been targeting the Hamas chief for quite a while now. Let's not forget that terrible, terrible day on October 7th, where so many lost their lives in that brutal attack. Sinwar was a mastermind, and that is the reason why Israel has been trying to target him, find him, and eliminate him. Go ahead, Samiksha.
That's right, Shivangi. Israeli forces have made their point absolutely clear that this is only the beginning of the end and that they would continue with their offensive targeting, not just the terror proxies, the Hezbollah group and the Hamas terror group, but even the Iranian forces for that matter. In fact, the statement that came in from the IDF yesterday after the Hamas chief was eliminated, the IDF spokesperson said that we will not stop until we capture all terrorists involved in October 7 massacre and bring all hostages home. In fact, Shivangi, that being said, let's also tell our viewers that the Hamas chief who's been eliminated is said to be the mastermind, the one who orchestrated the October 7 terror attack, in which more than 1,200 Israelis lost their lives. It's now being said that the focus is going to be shifting on getting those hostages back, as at least 109 captives are still held by the Hamas group in Gaza region itself. In fact, not just that, the IDF chief also in a detailed statement said that after a determined and prolonged pursuit that lasted an entire year, our forces eliminated the Hamas chief, who was the main perpetrator behind the murderous October 7 massacre, as we just told you, and abduction of many Israelis. So that being said, at least 100 captives are still held, and it's said that some of those hostages have even been executed. Unfortunate, so as to say, but of those 109 captives, some have been executed by the Hamas group. The Israeli forces also say that they met with troops that eliminated him during an encounter in the Rafah area, and that the troops acted correctly with professionalism and determination. In all sectors, the actions of the IDF, the ISA, the Southern Command, that is, the Intel Directorate and the Israeli Air Force over the past year drove Sinwar to act like a fugitive. So he was hiding all these years. In fact, he'd taken refuge in one of the many tunnels that the Hamas group has been operating from, Shivangi. But yes, it's a big victory that's coming in from the Israeli forces. What remains to be seen at this stage is how close are we to that ceasefire deal, if at all that happens in the near term, and whether this is going to signal the release of 109 hostages still held by the Hamas group, Shivangi.
That is right, Samiksha. Many world leaders calling for the release of hostages now that the Hamas chief has been eliminated. Thank you. We will be tracking the story entire day today. It's one of our top stories we're tracking. But right now, let's move ahead to some of the other global stories which are making the headlines. Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu announced that Israeli forces in Gaza have killed Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. Sinwar was a key figure behind last year's deadly attack on Israel. Israeli leader hailed it as a major turning point in their campaign to dismantle Hamas, urging its fighters to surrender and release hostages. While Netanyahu described it as its beginning of the end of the conflict, U.S. officials expressed hopes for a ceasefire, though the war, which has killed over 42,000 Palestinians and devastated Gaza, continues.
Yahya Sinwar is dead. He was killed in Rafah by the brave soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces. While this is not the end of the war in Gaza, it's the beginning of the end. To the people of Gaza, I have a simple message. This war can end tomorrow. It can end if Hamas lays down its arms and returns our hostages.
At a Wisconsin rally, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris warned that Republican nominee Donald Trump poses a growing threat to American freedom. She described him as increasingly unstable and unhinged. Harris accused Trump of seeking unchecked power and claimed he would use the military against citizens, restrict women's reproductive rights, and endanger fundamental freedoms, including the right to vote, gun safety, environmental protections, and LGBTQ+ rights.
Donald Trump is increasingly unstable and unhinged, and will stop at nothing to claim unchecked power for himself. He wants to send the military after American citizens. He wants to prevent women from making decisions about their own body. He wants to threaten fundamental freedoms and rights like the freedom to vote, the freedom to be safe from gun violence, to breathe clean air and drink clean water, and the freedom to love who you love openly and with pride.
Early in-person voting for the U.S. general elections begins this week in many states, including Louisiana, where we are seeing that many are prepared, setting up Dominion voting monitors. Unlike the 2020 elections, where nearly 2/3 of ballots were cast early due to the pandemic, officials anticipate a high turnout of in-person voters this year. In Louisiana, early voting will begin today and run till October 29th. Russian President Vladimir Putin accused the international community of using the Olympic movement for geopolitical games. He claimed that the Olympics has shifted from fair competition to promoting a destructive neoliberal agenda and propagating the unnatural norms that undermine traditional values. Putin emphasized that many nations still adhere to these values and criticized the use of the Olympics as a platform for such agendas. Putin also met with the president of Asian Chess Federation and urged Russia's Olympic Committee to strengthen international cooperation efforts. Fans gathered outside the Buenos Aires hotel where One Direction star Liam Payne has now passed away. They left notes and lit these candles to mourn his death. The Argentina police found his hotel room in disarray with drugs, supplements and broken items scattered around. The body has been discovered in the courtyard. Autopsy has revealed internal bleeding and multiple traumatic injuries from a fall. While no third-party involvement was found, authorities deemed the case suspicious, noting the possible role of alcohol and drugs.